Hey everyone, back at it again. Welcome to Lee TV, where I get a chance to interview industry leaders, school supervisors and officials, military professionals, community leaders, based on the lessons that they have to offer to my viewers. Today I've got let's see, instructor Vaughn Stanford from Trinidad and Tobago. So I hope that you enjoyed today's discussion. We will talk a little bit about his books, a little bit about Trinidad and how things are down there. And I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. And here we go. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Vaughn Stanford. How you doing, sir?
I am good with this.
I got to say thank you for coming and joining me on this discussion today. It's not typically normal where I get a chance to interview a mentor or a teacher or someone who I thoroughly respect. So, I'm taking advantage of this moment here by saying, I'm thankful that you come and chat with me today.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, all right. So I see, we were talking a little bit beforehand that about how things are back home and all that, and you're making me wish I was back home simply because there's less restrictions going on back home right now as compared to where I'm at today in Texas. Give me a little bit of a flavor about how home is right now.
Well, we're pretty much free. I can't think of, I mean, well, school is naturally on vacation, so, but I think everything else is open. The beaches are open, although I haven't been as yet. We still have travel between Trinidad and Tobago. I went to the barbershop today. Well, the supermarkets were never closed, so that was a really good thing. Yeah, so I think we pretty much enjoy the freedoms. The bar, if you like going to the bars are closed at 8 o'clock. Restaurants open for dining, but not to full capacity. So even the cinemas are open. I haven't been though. I am so used to, I'm so used to Netflix. So yeah, but I don't feel restricted at all. Because well, I teach and we were sent home since the 13th of March. And because, well, I'm a writer, I'm an introvert by nature, this worked really well for me. So I've been at home, I've been enjoying it. I've been able to go out and exercise. So yeah, it really hasn't been bad at all.
If more than anything, I
Sorry.
think back home it's an exercise, and if you just do it right, if you just do the curving of the
Yeah.
of the flattening of the curve,
Right.
well, this is how things could be. If you do things
Right.
right, this is the way how things could be.
Mm-hmm.
Right now in Europe, right now they're enjoying freedoms that I'm sure a lot of us
Right.
back in the US can wish that we could enjoy, but
Right.
pandemic is kind of crazy and it's kind of thrown a lot of people into a loop, but it's all good. But Mr. Stanford, I really appreciate you coming and chatting with me today. Before we go into the book, before we go into I guess some of the things that make you up as a writer and all of that, can you give us a little bit of background as far as who you are and where you're from and
Do
all those?
I? That's a tough question. Who am I? I mean, I know people usually, when you ask them who they are, they tell you what they do. So I guess that's the easier way to, to go. So I'm going to go that way. So I teach math at a secondary school, although my first degree was in chemistry. Yeah. I did a master's degree in creative writing, hence the writing of the books. Um, I love languages. So after I did my first degree, I did a certificate in Spanish. And right now I'm studying Chinese, believe it or not, because I was supposed to have gone to China in June of this year. And
Mm-hmm.
then this thing broke out in Wuhan. So in January, by January, they shut it down. Like, nope, we're not going to China.
Yeah.
And even though like I'm still studying, um, I started studying Chinese because it's difficult. It's like level 5 difficulty because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
keep the brain sharp. And I still study it. I doubt very much that I would go to China,
Mm-hmm.
but you never know. I mean, I could be persuaded, maybe. But yeah, so that's me. What else I do? Apart from reading, I enjoy a good movie, more dramas than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sports, tennis is my sport where everybody else in Trinidad likes football. I'm a little bit odd like that. I like my tennis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
pretty much me.
I got you. I got you. And so you talk a little bit about your, what do you do,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And I understand that, okay, a lot of times people describe who they are as far as what do they do.
Right.
But I got that. And I understand that. But I want to know who the man Vaughn Stanford
Ooh,
is.
wow, that's a tough question. Who am I? Do
Who
we
are you?
ever do we ever get to know who we are? I think it's it's a process.
Hmm.
Just today actually I was talking with my neighbor. I was telling her, at my age, you look back at your life and you see some things that you should have, well, maybe you should have done, and you wondered how your life would have turned out. So I was
Hmm.
telling her, many years ago, I had gotten the scholarship to go to Georgetown University to study
Hmm.
for a PhD in chemistry, and I didn't do it. And because I was scared, I had nobody in the States. I had nobody telling me, oh, no, you need to go. It's a great, well, one person told me it's a great opportunity. I should forget this writing thing and just do a PhD in chemistry. But I was
Hmm.
scared. And because I've never lived outside of Trinidad.
Hmm.
And so I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do it. So today, well, in recent times, I've been thinking about it, thinking about who I would have become if I had lived in the States. In
Yeah.
the past couple of months, you see the systemic racism, and I'm wondering if I had
Mm.
gone to DC, would I have been alive today?
Wow.
Or,
Wow.
things
Wow.
like that. You see Trinidadians moving to the US, and, well, they change, because the American culture is very different from Trinidad. And I wonder all the good values I have here in Trinidad, if I would have had them in the States, would I have been divorced by now on wife number two, the kids someplace? And, and I think about that. Here I'm home and I like who I am. I like who I've become.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't do a whole lot of crazy things. I'm a very simple, humble person. I'm teaching. I try to do good by people. I try to help. And I think that's why I've stayed in teaching for so long, because
Yeah.
it's been about helping people. I've had kids who, um, you know, start liking maths or start understanding math because I've had them as a teacher. Actually, last weekend, one student, I was hanging out with him. And he's like, "Sir, I wish I had you as a teacher in school." I was kind
Mm.
of surprised to hear that, because I know there are some kids who took to me and there are kids who didn't. But
Yeah.
but I'd like to think I have invested in these kids. Been doing this for 30 years, so I know
Hmm.
I've invested in a lot of lives. I know I've touched lives, and I think that's who I am. I'm a helper. Yeah, the long and short of it, I'm a helper. I try to enable people to be the best that they can be.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you. And it's. I'll tell you what. All these different things are surprising news to me. I didn't know you had
Mm,
all of those different educational opportunities when you were
mm-hmm,
younger.
mm-hmm,
So it's something that's kind of inspirational.
mm-hmm,
Honestly, I'll tell you what. As a Trinidadian that moved to the
mm-hmm.
U.S., I still retained a lot of the
Right,
morals and values that I had from back home. That's
right.
kind of helped me become, I would say, successful in a
Mm-hmm,
kind of way. I don't like toot my own horn at all, but I
mm-hmm,
think I have retained some of those things from back home that kind of pushed me to be the adult that I am today.
right.
So I want to say, you just never know where the opportunity may have taken you, but
Right.
I'm glad at
Yeah.
least that you were able to saw you saw the yin or the yang, and you chose
Right.
one,
Uh,
and you I guess have no guilt in your decisions that you've made.
yeah. I mean, of course, you wonder what if.
Yeah,
Who knows? Maybe I would have been the guy to come up with a cure for AIDS or something. You think about things like that, but who knows? Maybe I would have been a part of big pharma, just mass producing stuff. Who knows how it would have gone? But at least I know who I am now, and I mean, I kind of like me. I kind of like me.
I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. I got you. So, I mean, more than anything, I know
Mm-hmm.
you as the guy from back home that gave me the opportunity a couple of years ago when I came back
Right.
home to do a quick interview on,
Right.
where I was and all those different things. And
Mm-hmm.
if you all ever got a chance to go on YouTube and check out on Vaughn Stanford's interview, what channel is it on, sir?
But it's on my channel. Yeah, it's on my
Okay,
channel. Vaughn Stanford.
and
Yeah.
you just see some of the interviews that I did with him, and some interviews that he's done with also more alum from Digo Secondary
Mm-hmm.
School. We just talked about, and it's interesting how we as adults we've grown up in the things that we got ourselves involved with, some of the
Mm-hmm.
industries that we participated in, some of the programs that we got ourselves in, and I want to say thank you for that opportunity
Yeah.
because that kind of sparked, honestly, this sort of forum that I have
Mm.
going on today. So, in an indirect way, well, in a direct way, say you're an inspiration to Lee
Mm.
TV.
Oh, I'm glad that happened. Let me see, probably about a month ago, I posted the last one
Hmm.
because when we did that, it was about 6 years ago.
Hmm.
And I had like 8 episodes that weren't edited. So this year I got them edited and I
Hmm.
posted them. And it's interesting that people were commenting and people wanted to be part of it because I guess back then some of them didn't know about it. And
Hmm.
they're like, oh, they want to be on the program. And I'm like, sorry, we don't do it anymore. I, I, if I do something with Digosec again, well, Digosec alumni,
Hmm.
yeah, I'd probably want to do something, but not the same thing. I want to do something different. I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. Probably
I
find
got
another
you.
way to something a little dynamic, something shorter because I know people's attention span is short. So probably do like a 5 minute um, documentary or something. Yeah, so it is in the back of my mind.
Okay.
So
Well,
more
I'll
people.
tell you what. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you what. I say, I wanted to come home and actually be a teacher or instructor
Mm-hmm.
of audiovisual work because I knew that the medium of you know, television, video, photography, it's a means of telling a story, the same way how
Mm-hmm.
you as an author use books to tell
Right.
stories and to highlight, things that you see every day that, the everyday story is not something that everyone gets a chance to hear or listen.
Right.
So I wanted to use these mediums that I have right now and actually come home and actually teach kids how to do what I do. And
Right.
I just wanted to give, kind of like an opportunity. If you by chance know, hey, if the opportunity is there to come home and teach, just tell me and
Okay.
I'll be
I
well on
would
my
I would
way home.
definitely do that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. But Mr. Stanford, I've got to say, creative writing is your forefront, though, correct?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. I guess okay. So when I was in high school, we did short story writing as part of the
Hmm.
syllabus, and I really like literature, but you get to a point where you have to choose what you're going to major in, and I decided to go science. So I did chemistry as a first degree, but even while I was doing my degree, I was involved in writing. So like I did some plays and sketches for church, and then those things just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I tried to do some educating myself on screenplays. And I decided, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to do some screenplays. So I did some short films. Quality not so great. I thought the writing was good, but when you don't have a budget, you use a camcorder and you have a bunch of friends who just like, yeah, I want to do it. No trained actors, no
Mm-hmm.
lighting and whatever. And he decided, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. So that's how I ended up doing the masters in creative writing. And but it didn't allow for screenwriting. It was only prose, and I kind of liked it because with you, it's just you and your laptop. You write whatever you want to write.
Mm-hmm.
You get somebody to edit it, and you put it out there. Now you could do a lot of self-publishing, right? Whereas with a movie, there are so many people involved.
Mm-hmm.
So for the past 6 years, I've just been focusing on the creative writing, the novels, short story collections. I would like to do a movie, like a good quality movie or something, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not at the forefront of my mind right now.
Interesting. Interesting. I know that you have written a few books,
Yeah,
and these books are not math or chemistry books. These are strictly creative writing books. And
yeah.
that's something that is kind of, you're almost like a Renaissance man to a degree, I would say.
Well, there are a lot of there are a couple of mad people who write. Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. I do not know what it is between math educators and creative writing. I do not know what that is, but I don't question it. I say thank you, Jesus, and I use my gift. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. You want to talk to us a little bit about your different books that you've got going on and
Okay,
the
sure.
inspirations that you've had behind them? So I know
So,
of, so how about this? Let me do a quick screen share type deal,
okay.
and so that people could see what I
Mm,
am talking about, so that I'm not just putting something out there that people don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm just doing a quick screen share from Amazon.
okay.
So if you see
Uh,
right now, what you're looking at right
consequences.
now is my Amazon page, but I
Right.
see Consequences, a novel. Can you
Right.
talk? Can you talk to us a little bit about what Consequences is all about?
Okay. Consequences. There was a I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. So there was a time I was very interested in the Illuminati. I do not know if it's real or not. People say all sorts of things about these Hollywood actors, these rappers, and whatever.
Hmm.
And I mean, of course, in Trinidad, we have similar stories of people of
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
getting involved in the dark side of things to move forward. And it really fascinated me. So this started as an assignment for my creative writing class.
Hmm.
And it was about three women. Actually, no, it was about one woman who was going through all these difficult things. And
Hmm.
I really enjoyed writing this story. And when I presented it to the class to be critiqued, oh man, they tore it apart, and and
how did they
I
tear it apart? How did they tear
that
it
that
apart?
that is it. That is the process. You present work, so you send it to your classmates the week before, and then the next week in class, they sit and they dissect what they like, what they didn't like, what worked, what didn't work, and they just tore it apart. And I remember one lady saying, "This is not a story. This is a litany of woes." I always remember that. And I am like, oh my God, I should have taken that PhD offer. I should have done my chemistry because with
Hmm.
chemistry, it wasn't subjective. You did your experiments, you got your
Yeah.
results, you have
Uh-huh.
your inference, and I should have gone chemistry. More than once, I left that class feeling like that. Um, but I was determined to make this work because I really like this story. So I decided instead of having this litany of woes to split it up into the stories of three women
Hmm.
and without giving the story away, it grew from that. So it's like these women are going through these bad experiences,
Hmm.
and so it starts off with that, and then in part two of the book, you see why it was happening. It's because of a gentleman who was involved in some of the darker side of things.
Hmm.
He even became the prime minister of the country, but of course he had his help,
Hmm.
and as a result of that, uh, um, there were consequences. So I had I had done this draft. I wanted it to be a novella, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the writing residence that year, Miriam Chansey, she looked at it, she liked it, and she says, Vaughn, you could expand this, you could do this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I did what she told me, and I fleshed it out, and I got the novel. But I also had written another story, a short story, and I had submitted it to my supervisor, and he said, Vaughn, I like this short story. Write
Mm-hmm.
more like them, and you submit this for your master's thesis. And that was Tales from Mysteria. I guess we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Oh
But
yeah.
consequences, I really like consequences. It's rapid. I love the pace of it. And yeah, so after I got my master's degree, I decided I'm gonna work on it. I worked on it and I put it out there. Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump into another book. And I see that this book cover is right in the back of
Yeah.
you too.
Yeah. So that was my master's thesis, Tales from Mysteria.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked how it came out. So I made a picture of it and I framed it. It's the only one of my books that I framed. Tales, yeah, so from Mysteria, mostly animal stories, but of course, okay, so you may think it's a young adult or probably even teenagers, early teens. They'd appreciate it, you have
Mm-hmm.
um, like the first story, it's a relationship between a bird and a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and on the surface it looks like that, but again, the older readers would realize, okay, I'm talking about more than what's on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exploring relationships, and basically that's what that's about. Yeah, but instead of using people, because people could be kind of boring, I use
Yeah.
animals instead. Um, Talk about relationships. Yeah, and I'm hoping to do a part two to it because the way it ends, and I think even consequences, people who've read consequences are like, no, you can't end it like this. You need to tell us more. They want to know
Mm-hmm.
what happens with some other characters. So the trouble with consequences, because there's this diabolical force that's working to do whatever they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have to come up with a way to bring them down, and it's been what, probably about 5 years, and I haven't found a way to bring them down that's believable. So, but Mysteria, I definitely want to do a part two to that, because in that one too, there's some rebellion. So the horse, of course, is the rebellious one because he didn't get what he wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and in the final chapter, he rebels against the gods of Mysteria. So, um, so I
What
really
age
want.
group would you say? What age group would you say could read this
It's
book?
young adults. I think, but you have a lot of younger kids who are reading beyond their grade level.
Yeah.
So I would say from early teens, definitely.
An 11-year
Right?
old? Because I
Yeah,
may have
yeah,
a certain 11-year-old go read this. Because I
yeah,
think, yeah.
yeah,
So I think you just inspired me. Bam. And it's just
yeah.
only $2. So
I,
that's too easy.
I must say though, it's a little bit dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little bit dark. So beware.
That's fine.
I remember when I did the first story, I gave it to one of my colleagues who had this little girl at home,
Mm-hmm.
and his comment was, she's like, "Daddy, why is this so sad?" Because it ended on a negative note. Well, not negative, a very realistic thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
It's
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
It's all right. Let's jump into the next book right here. I see
Um,
Desire. Is
desire,
this
no,
one?
okay. Desire is just a story from Unseemly Behavior.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's freebie. So people who don't want to commit uh, $1.99 or $2.99, and they just want a free story to see my writing style. Desire. That was prompted from my work as a teacher at Degosec. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote that story, and I did so many iterations of it. I don't know what was true anymore. I know it was based on something that actually happened, kind of. Um, and I actually based it, and I based it on some of my students, some of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very quickly, this girl, she went to this party, high school age, of course, and she was
Mm-hmm.
almost raped and by one of the older boys from school who was at the party. And she decided to take revenge on him, and it just gets out of hand where the teacher gets involved, and he didn't behave so well either when he confronted the boy. So yeah, so I
I
mean,
got you.
even yeah, so like desire and even like unseemly behavior, there are a couple stories there that have been inspired by my work at Degosec.
So
So people,
let's go ahead and click over to unseemly
so
behaviors.
you see two covers too. So they
Yeah. Which one
yeah
would you prefer?
the one you're clicking on now.
Okay, so let's go on that one
Yeah.
right now. All right. Unseemly behavior. What's this about?
Yeah, unseemly behavior. That was a collection of stories I wrote before doing the degree. So like I told you, I was just writing, even though I'm teaching math. I was just writing my stories. I think by 1995, I had decided that I wanted to do writing seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So I had gone to a writer's workshop for like 4 days or whatever. And I think then I decided I'm gonna write seriously. So um, the stories in that book came as a result of my decision. And what I wanted to do there, people have the idea. I'm not sure if it's written in in the description in the book. People have the
Mm-hmm.
idea that the Caribbean is it's a paradise. It's just sea, sand, and women.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and I think unseemly behavior shows that there's another side of the Caribbean that they don't tell you about in the tourist brochures. So we have issues. So like I told you, what happened in Desire, kids getting involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in. Um, there's a story there on suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's one. I know everybody this weekend. Everybody's been talking about entanglement. So
Oh man. Oh.
yeah, so there's a story of entanglement in in
We,
unseemly
we, we call
behavior.
that we call that back home tabanca. That is no entanglement.
Well, I do not know what that is. I do not want to comment on people's
Uh-huh,
relationships.
uh-huh,
I
uh-huh,
wasn't
uh-huh.
there. So yeah, so yeah, it looks at even there was one about sexual abuse and the victim having to confront the abuser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's even one very political one. It's overtly political, because like in this country we have elections coming up pretty soon, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately people vote depending on their race. And so there was a story there that that, that just kind of exposed that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's why I
Interesting.
call it unseemly behavior, because people are just misbehaving in the Caribbean. That's supposed to be a paradise.
So it's a collection of stories, what unseemly
That's a
behavior
collective.
is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
This sounds, man, look here. Let me send that straight to my iPad. I may have to go ahead and buy that and get that sent to me.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
I am a big supporter on anyone that can,
Mhm.
bring a good story, bring a good
Mhm.
discussion, bring a good, you want to break up the monotony of
Yeah.
how everyday living is, especially if you're here in the US where all I do is go to
Mhm.
work and come home and avoid corona. That's all that I end up doing. So I think it'll be
Wow.
something,
Wow.
really well that
Mhm.
I can enjoy. But regarding creative writing, can you kind of talk to us a little bit about
Mhm.
where did you initially get your inspirations for creative writing, and how has it helped you as a mathematician yourself?
Uh, I read somewhere, I think The War of Art, I think is the name of the book. The
Hmm.
War of Art. I think it's a really short book. And but the author, I don't even remember who the author was. He was saying that, sometimes stories just come to you and you just have to be there to receive it. And I think, okay, I know there are people who write for profit. I know they have a formula, they just write and they make money because this is, I mean, it's I mean, about making money. I something has to touch me for me to
Mm,
write about it. Sometimes I might get an idea, like, okay, cool, but it's not enough to sustain a story. So
mhm.
I might write a short, or I might just leave it there, and it might um, eventually come up in another book. But yeah, so usually the inspiration is from real life. So there are two books we didn't talk about this yet. So the last book I did, it was really short, called Losing Mother. That was based on my mom's.
Yes, yeah.
I wouldn't call it a battle because there really isn't a battle when you have Alzheimer's. So my mom is dealing with Alzheimer's now, and when I
Mm,
went back home because there wasn't anybody to be there with her. I
mhm.
mean, I saw when she was diagnosed, from the time she was diagnosed to the time I started seeing the effects, it was a really short time. And so I was at home,
Mhm.
and my life had changed so much. So it was work, home, and I had to find an outlet. I went to a counselor. I wanted to talk with someone to make sure that I was dealing with it correctly. I didn't want to go crazy because people who, but the caregivers, sometimes they
Yeah.
tend to go kind of crazy themselves, and I didn't
Yeah.
want that to happen to me. So I went to a counselor, and he assured me that I was doing everything right,
Mhm.
but I still wanted to deal with it in a creative way. So I
Mhm.
started writing this story about this plant. I'm sitting on my porch one day, surrounded by plants, and I started to write about this plant. And it turned out that, well, I'm not going to give it away, but it was supposed to be a short story. But then I decided, instead of looking at this one person who was a caregiver for a parent with Alzheimer's, let me give other people's perspective. So I look at his other siblings' perspective. So
Yeah.
that was my way of dealing with it to some extent. So
Mhm.
that's one way. Well, I mean, yeah, that's for me. That's how creativity comes. It's just a matter of it just comes. I don't go searching for stories. It just comes.
Okay.
Um, so like even with this, which I consider a very hilarious book, Fighting to Keep My Underwear On. I know it's not something that you hear a lot about, but
Mhm.
everybody talks about the want their girls to maintain their virginity. At least in Trinidad, it used to be a thing. I'm not sure if it's a thing
Mhm.
anymore,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But nobody was talking about the boys. Nobody, they wanted the men, the boys to be studs, go out there and have experiences. And I
Mhm.
remember a student had shared something with me that I thought was a little bit disturbing, but of course in our society, it's okay, if you're seduced as a man, that's okay. And it got me thinking, it's like, no, I want to deal with this. And I think one of the
Mhm.
things I want to do with my writing is to start conversations. So I decided to write on a guy who decided, he's gonna wait until he's married to have sex. Of course, that was not going to be easy at all.
Yeah.
And that was one of the books. I think it's probably the first book I did where I actually had to do research.
Mm.
So I had to talk with people. I asked them to give me their stories, get their experiences, and of course, I had to reshape it to fit the narrative that I had in mind. So it seems
Yeah.
as though it's one person who's going through all these crazy things. Of course, people who
Mhm.
know me, who've read the book, they're like, no, Vaughn, those are all your experiences. I'm like, no, I don't have such an exciting life. But yeah, so the book, the one that I'm working on now is another one I had to do research for. And again, my
Mhm.
research primarily by talking with people, because again, I'm investigating how men treat women badly,
Mm.
and the different ways they do that. I shouldn't say women treat other people badly. So it's because it's not
Yeah.
only women I'm dealing with in the book. And again, I mostly spoke with women, got their experiences of how men were treating them so badly, and again, twisted to to fit the narrative.
I would say it almost it almost brings out of the darkness some of these
Mm,
stories that need to be told to normalize having these discussions in general society.
right. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I got you. You know, and I think so. What I'd like to do now, let's go ahead and put up some of the comments over our 35 minutes or so of discussion, and
Okay.
people have been chiming in already. So
Oh,
I've
really?
got one
Okay.
here from Miss Ford. She say, "Thank you, gentlemen,"
All right.
and then she tagged Miss Alice Alicia Tyson Clark. Trinidad represents. Okay, and then Miss Clark comes saying, "You know, Trini in the house. I'm a very proud Trini. All right, all
Great to
right."
hear.
All right. She said red, white, and black. And then I've got a sorority sister. She said, love the variety of writing. Will
Mm,
definitely check
yeah.
these out. Your variety of
You
writing.
know, it's
Go,
interesting.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting that she said that because you know, okay, so like with traditional publishers, they want you to write a certain genre. So if you're
Hmm.
writing, I don't know, like spy novels, you write spy novels, you know, because they don't want to confuse their readers. Because if one comes out with a spy novel, his readers are gonna look for another spy novel. And
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
haven't done that because I mean, like I said, I want to discuss topics that are interesting to me, and I hope that that's interesting to other people too. So I'm not gonna stick with a formula because it becomes boring after a while. I
Yeah.
remember, and I always got teased with this in school. I used to read Nicholas. I probably read two Nicholas Sparks, right? I don't know if you know who he is, but he does all these fluffy romances. so so during the pandemic, so a couple of them have been turned into movies. And during the
Hmm.
pandemic, I said, you know what, there's just, there's corona all the time, so many people are dying. I'm like, I'm gonna take it down a bit. I'm
Hmm.
gonna
Hmm.
look at Nicholas Sparks movies. I looked at one, okay. I look at the second, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna look at any more because it's repetitive. You kind of know what's gonna happen.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I don't I find it a bit difficult to stick in one genre. So yeah, I'm glad that I get stories with all these different ideas, different themes. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You know, Mr. Stanford, over the past, half an hour or so we've been talking, I really enjoyed the discussion. You know, more than anything,
Mhm.
it shows just how flexible of an artist you are. You can knock out a book based on great stories, and then you could go and teach a student
Teach math.
chemistry in the
Teach
next half
math.
an hour.
Ah, I'm math. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just wired differently. But
Hmm.
and I don't know. I think with the kids who do well, it's more than and I think one of my colleagues had said this to me, like at least in Trinidad, I think kids need to know that you care for them first. If you don't, yeah, math is important for us because you need to leave school with your math and English passes.
Hmm.
But if you provide a safe space for them where, okay, we're doing math now, but if we have some extra time, we could talk. You can ask me stuff about life, or
Hmm.
you just be informal, and they see that you're human. And I think, okay, so like in our school, um, for a couple of years, I've had what we call form classes. So I was in charge of, I don't know how you call it in the States, your form class. I'd have just male students in my form class. I'm not a homeroom, right?
Okay, okay,
So,
okay.
so I would teach them math, but I'll also be responsible for them. So, like for their register, for their reports, like excuses, uniforms, things like that.
Hmm.
And a lot of our students come from single parent homes, and usually just the female. And I think it's important without consciously going with the idea, look, I have to be a role model, I have to be a father figure. I think in the back of my mind, I am that to these guys. So, yes, you
Yeah.
do math, but you want them to see what a father figure is like.
Hmm.
So you would laugh at them if they say something genuinely funny. It might
Hmm.
be not the right time, whatever, but you laugh. You know, sometimes they're surprised, like, they're laughing, or if they see me out of school, it's like, so he's wearing
Hmm.
pair of jeans. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, I am human. So,
Hmm.
and I think once you have that environment where the kids know that you really care about them, they're more inclined to learn. They'll be more inclined to do what you say. They'll trust you, and I think that's what we need more in our schools. Yeah,
I agree. I fully
yeah,
agree. Humanizing the teacher, humanizing the mathematician,
mm,
humanizing the writer kind of gives a child, it kind of breaks away that wall of, fear that a lot of children may have growing up, especially
mm,
if they grow up in a very strict kind of place like down in the Caribbean as compared to,
mm,
say, up in the US. Is very
right.
different in the US, very
Mm-hmm,
different. But I remember, when I remember when I came back and,
mm-hmm,
seeing my teachers, seeing some of them as adults, and they saw me as an adult. It
mm-hmm,
was weird, but it felt very kind of, I arrived. So,
mm-hmm.
it's something that I celebrate, something that I acknowledge. But, I want to just say to you, just thank you. Thank you. Thank you for, just coming and talking with me today.
Yeah, I had to
If you
think
have,
about it.
what you say?
I said I had to think about it, you know,
Well,
because I mean, another thing about writers, you know, yes, you want to be out there, but you don't want to be out there,
yeah.
you know. So, but I'm glad I did this. Fun,
Good, 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 good.
yeah,
Well, I'm glad that you did it too. Very much
yeah.
so.
Thank
But
you.
if you have anything else going on with you right now, you want to share with everyone so that people could
Mm,
possibly check out your work and all of that. Obviously, we have some
mm,
people who's gonna check out some of your writing. I just
yeah.
downloaded the book, so I'm gonna go read it and
Okay,
see
cool.
what these
Yeah,
stories are all about as well.
yeah, cool. I'm just nothing new really. The other book. So my goal was to put out a book a year. Um, but of course, this year with all that's happening, I do not know if it's gonna. I'm waiting to see if there's gonna be a second wave.
Hmm.
Because I mean, if there's a second wave, I don't think anybody's gonna say, you know what, there's a second wave. Let me see what good book there is to read.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it
true.
doesn't make sense. You know, you spend all this money on advertising and nobody buys the book. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm waiting. So the first draft is there. I was supposed to be editing it this vacation period, but I just haven't done it as yet. Maybe August I would, and then send it off to my editor.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that out there because it's a little bit more serious. Um, yeah, about men behaving badly, and I really hope, of course, there's a message in it, and I hope people. Well, it's gonna cause arguments, and that's fine. Controversy sells,
Hmm.
so that's good. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Stanford, I appreciate you coming and joining me on the discussion today. Hang out
Mhm.
in the broadcast room. Let's talk a little bit more, okay?
Sure, great.
All right, sir. You take it easy.
Okay, thanks for this.
Yep. And we had a good discussion today with Mr. Stanford. He kind of went into some of the creative writings that he's had. Y'all could go check it out on Amazon. So that's Vaughn T. Stanford. Vaughn T. Stanford. Vaughn T. Stanford. You could go check him out, check out his writings. I enjoyed it. I'm going to download a few of those books and get myself some good reading. And in parting, as I always say, you take care of yourself, take care of your family, and take care of others now. Bye.